Hi everyone, Franco from Fresh Aire Carpet Cleaning here, and today we're going to have another little chat on another topic of something that's been increasingly happening for the last 6 months or so, for us at least anyway, and that's to do with having water ingress into your property and what you should do, and probably more importantly what you shouldn't do, because there's a lot of people who really don't do the things quite as quickly as they maybe should, and it ends up just being a bigger mess than it could have been in the first place. So that's going to be our show today. Hopefully give you a little bit of information and a bit of guidance what to happen if the unfortunate does happen to you. And we're here with Michael Worthington as well, who's going to guide the session for us, if you want to put it that way.
How are you, Franco?
Oh, well, thank you.
Wet carpet.
Yes, wet carpet.
I've actually heard one of your phrases, 2 weeks, it's too late.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like a lot of people, unfortunately, don't understand that when you've got carpet and it's wet, there's a lot of moisture down there. And what you see at the top is pretty much like the tip of an iceberg. If you think in the icebergs, that little bit sticking out the top there and then the huge bit on the bottom, and the same applies with your moisture in your carpet. If you can see it at the top, there's this thing called gravity that sucks it back down. So the bulk of it's only going to be in the back of the carpet, in the underlay, in the hard floor. And that's where you start getting issues, because how are we going to get that back up out of there before it starts creating all your mould and bacterial issues that then lead to smells and nasty stains in your carpet, and in some cases, like there was one I was telling you about a little bit earlier on, where there was this pretty much a forest of mould growing underneath the carpet, and it was just a dead throwaway, and it created too much damage.
And I think because you deal a lot with the property managers and then the tenants, and tenants do panic a little bit, and they go, oh dear, I've got a leak, and oh, what should I do? And they may think, oh, maybe if I just lift the carpet up and just hold it back a little bit, that will get some air under there and it'll dry it out.
Yeah. And certainly that will help.
Right.
But there's one certain thing we've got to take into consideration. When the carpet's wet, it's weaker. So if you just go and start pulling things up willy-nilly all over the place, you'll start damaging the back of the carpet, and potentially to the point where you can't actually relay the carpet. So therefore, unless you've got the proper tools to disengage the carpet and not create an issue, you might find yourself with another set of problems instead. Yes, the carpet might dry a little bit quicker, but then you've damaged the carpet anyway, so you've just made yourself an expensive mistake.
Well, on your show, we always like to look at some of the humorous side as well. And there are green forests that grow underneath these peeled back carpets, so you can't actually push the carpet back down anyway.
Oh, look, it probably, if you push it back down, you nicely crush the mould, because the mould's not that strong as far as the structural strength goes. But literally, I went into one property that they'd left it for 2 weeks, and it was saturated. I mean, absolutely saturated for 2 weeks, to the point where it damaged the wall and damaged the skirtings. It had even started rusting the door frame.
Wow.
That's how bad it had
was
gone.
Was there a leak going on in this place or something?
There had been a leak from the hot water system, which was supposedly fixed, not particularly well, but it was still wet, and no one had done anything about it. The tenant had tried to lift the carpet up a little bit because it started to smell, funnily enough, because the back of it was staying wet and it was starting to rot. But they just lifted it up a little bit to allow a bit of airflow, but all that did was to encourage some more mould activity. Normally we see a nice black fungal growth when you've got the carpet laid down, because there's a non-aerobic type of fungus that grows in there. And it will just stay black, and it doesn't sort of grow too high. But the one I pulled up, it was green and it was white and it was yellow and it's furry, and it was very interesting. Would have been my college's wet dream.
So when people have a flood or something on a carpet, and it doesn't matter whether they've had their 2 litre or 5 litre bucket of water they've been doing in the winters, and all of a sudden it's wet there, why is it a trickier job than may appear to dry it out? What's going on?
So
with
a lot of people think that, look, it's okay, it's a little bit of water, water's not damaging, we bathe in it every day, we drink it and all the rest of it, and it's all fine, Jim dandy. But the problem is when things stay wet for too long. Now, bacterial growth in particular, it needs a couple of things. It needs a bit of heat, or warmth, I should say, 20 to 28 degrees, and a bit of moisture, and a food source. So when you've got the back of the carpet that's been a few years old, there's going to be stuff sitting in there that's going to be a nice food source of the bacteria. Yeah. They like to be at 20 to 28 degrees, and guess what? So do we. So that's where our houses are kept. And then there's that moisture there, and that starts off that bacterial activity. We've got to remember that within 10 hours, under ideal conditions, one bacterium grows to 10 billion.
10 billion.
Okay, now we've got that number in your head?
Yes.
One bacterium can grow to that. So we get, within a very short period of time, we can, if the conditions are right, of course, we can actually get a really heavy bacterial infestation in there, which is what causes the smells and all the nasty things that start happening. And then the other stuff that we got happening is that carpet, with an underlay in particular, is going to find it very difficult to dry out because there's no airflow underneath it. Without airflow, you don't dry stuff. I mean, it's the same as you put your clothes out in the washing on a wet day, or a really cold day, I should say. If you've got a bit of a breeze out there, it still dries off.
Because of the breeze.
If you put it inside the house and just have it sitting there with no breeze around it, it'll take days to dry out. And it's the same sort of principle with the carpet. I mean, we've got a couple of little examples here to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so we've got our carpet and it's sitting on the underlay, which you can see just there.
Yep.
So we've got this nice stuff here. What is that? What can you see?
Well, that's foam.
It's foam. It's just like a sponge, isn't it?
I was going to say, it looks like the dishwashing sponge I've got in the sink.
It's recycled foam, packaging foam.
Okay.
It's literally what it is, and that's why you can see all those nice little chunks and bits and pieces in there.
Yep.
But that there absorbs a lot of moisture. Now, it's got a bit of a membrane on top there. That there it's there really for when you're installing the carpet to allow that little bit of slip between the carpet so it doesn't stick to itself. Okay, whereas if I try it on the other side,
it's a bit grabby.
It's grabby, yeah. So that helps the installer put it in, but it also creates a bit of a barrier for the moisture to get out. And that's sitting on top of a porous substrate, be it wood or concrete or anything like that. And then you've got this stuff here. This is your normal bit of carpet. This one happens to be a wool carpet. It's got a jute backing. So with these things here, you have those tufts that are put through a primary backing, which is normally polypropylene, and that's fine. But then it's glued to a secondary backing, which is that hessian that everybody always sees. It's a jute backing. So that stuff there likes being wet. That stuff there likes being wet, or they hold a lot of moisture. Not so much that they like being wet, but they hold a lot of moisture. And it's all sitting in. On top of that, with no airflow going through it, apart from what's happening at the surface there. So you can come along and you can sop that little bit up and you think, oh yeah, the carpet looks fairly dry, but underneath, it's staying wet, and that's where the issues lie.
So when you have a look at that, and I was just looking at how thick that piece was, I'll just hold it up for one of the cameras. That seems to me, I mean, I can try and imagine trying to get the moisture. If the moisture's underneath here, that's quite a challenge to get the moisture from the base here.
Exactly.
And you're going to drag it back through foam and all this carpet stuff.
Yeah, so what happens is a lot of people have the mistaken belief that by the time you just suck a little bit of water out, that's the job done.
Done the towels on top job.
Yeah, or the towels on top, and that's the job done. But the real issue is if it stays wet for too long a period of time. So really, if you've got a 24 to 48 hour window before you start running into problems and potential problems, and 72 hours down the track, then you've got some real issues starting to happen as far as bacterial growth, if in the right conditions.
Wow.
So the idea is not to just come in and get some person with an extraction machine to suck a little bit of water out. We have to install drying equipment as well. Somehow or another, we've got to be able to pull that moisture out as quickly as possible, as soon as possible, so that we don't get any further issues with it.
And then still have machinery or equipment that'll assist the drying. So just drawing the moisture out is just really just step one, but now you're actually going to assist the carpet and the foam and the concrete. So
that's the extraction of the water is really just the first step.
Yeah.
It's not the be all and end all, because it's only removing a certain amount of water, and the rest of it's sitting in that lovely absorbent medium.
Is this why when you hear some people, and look, they're great carpet cleaners, and I know they're members of the Carpet Cleaners Association and do it properly, but some people will go, oh, I've got this, and they'll go, oh, look, I'll pop out for $50. Yeah, $50, I'll come out and I'll suck that water out for you, no problem, I've got an extraction machine. And they come and they go, and then all of a sudden you're going, there's a funny smell in there. So why can't I get rid of that smell?
Yeah, and it's a real funky smell. It's not particularly pleasant.
No, it's not pleasant at all.
And especially for anybody who does have some allergies, that's actually starting to hit the danger territory as well, because a lot of that's mould that's starting to develop. So we don't want mould or excessive amounts of mould in the environment, particularly for anybody who has any sort of respiratory illness at all. It's not healthy. So you really want to try and draw that down as quickly as possible. As I said, trying to get as much moisture out within the first 24 hours is really critical to making sure that carpet is going to be salvageable, and B, going to not infect the health of anybody within that environment as well.
So I suppose a couple of things you mentioned there, so it's salvageable. So there are times when I jokingly say to you your catchphrase, 2 weeks too late.
Yep.
New carpet time.
Oh, look, in that particular
cases.
situation that I was talking about before, with that carpet that had stayed wet for the 2 weeks, I walked in there and took one look at it. The back of the carpet, as I said, we've got that chute. It's a natural fibre.
Yes.
It was rotten. There was absolutely nothing left. There was a couple of little shreds of it just hanging in there, and the rest of it was pretty well gone.
Yeah.
So there's no way to put that carpet back down, because that is what grips onto the carpet gripper.
Yeah. Oh.
Without that, you can't lay your carpet.
Oh, they're the strips of wood with all little nails
that are
sticking
out of it. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other thing is that if they get all wet, they get damaged as well. That needs to come up and be replaced as well. But if you dry them quick enough, you can salvage them.
Okay.
So what could have been a really salvageable carpet, quite easily, because it was a high quality wool carpet in that case. It was in an apartment in Perth CBD. It turned into a complete rebuild and replacement job, because it wasn't just the carpet then. As I said, there was structural damage that had happened as well, to the point of rusting a door frame. I mean, I can't do much about that, unfortunately.
But Franco, when you describe this and the complexities, is it a specialist field to actually dry carpet properly?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing, that not every carpet cleaner, just because they're a carpet cleaner, is set up to do a full dry out of a building once it's been wet. It is a really highly specialised field.
Because one thing I know about it, that if water goes through there, it doesn't just stay there, does it?
No.
It's got this nasty habit of spreading.
It does, absolutely.
And you don't actually see where it's spreading.
Yeah, it's like the analogy that the iceberg, you see the tip of the iceberg, but then underneath it's 80% of the actual volume. The same sort of thing happens here.
So there are actual people like yourselves that specialise in this because you have an understanding of how this actually operates.
That's right, yeah. So, I mean, we will go in and do some testing first, because, as I say, you might see that little patch in here, but the water will extend to over here. Yeah. And in some cases, it'd say, oh, well, it was just in this room, and I go to the room next to it, and the wall along there is actually all wet as well. So
it's actually, the capillary action has dragged it through.
The water is incredibly invasive, and you wouldn't believe how far water can travel sometimes and where it's come from. I had another wonderful incident a few years ago that was in an apartment in Vic Park. It was just a 2-storey apartment block. Yeah. The carpet in the house was wet, or in the apartment, I should say, was wet. And so, okay, well, it's wet. And I thought, well, it's right next to the bathroom area, so it's going to be probably a tap or something like that. Tried to investigate. Couldn't find a leak for the love nor money. And so I thought, okay, well, let's just try looking a little bit further here. And I got my water sensor out, and we started testing the wall, because I could see there's a bit of bubbling in the wall at the bottom. Yeah. So I progressively went up the wall, and what we found out is there was a leak from the unit above, which was creating the problem in the unit below. So we had to get that fixed before we could actually do any structural drying within the apartment underneath that we were meant to be working in.
So when you get someone who's skilled in this type of field, you're starting to see not just an extraction machine getting dragged through your front door. Yeah. You're starting to see pieces of equipment and a systemised approach to not only go, it's there, but let's detect it, let's see where the spread is, let's see where it's come from, and confirm it almost scientifically like you do.
It's called psychrometry.
Oh, there you go. I'm not going to have a go at that one.
Not psychro.
Yeah.
But look, it's really about getting in there and identifying, the water source, because there's different categories of water as well. Because we've got anything from just clean old water to sewage backups, which do happen.
Yeah. Right.
And of course, in that sort of situation, it's a sewage backup. It's an all-way rip out, replace. Yeah. It's just, you can't say that you're going to restore that carpet 100%. Can you get every little bit out? Can you sterilise it? No, we can sanitise, but that's not good enough.
No.
So it's a rip up and replace. But there's other things in between as well. So you've got to be understanding the mediums that you're working with, the types of carpet you've got, the different types of underlay. That's just one example. There's a few different types.
Yes.
What the setup of the property is, how much has gone into it, what furniture there is in the room as well. It all plays a part in the way that it gets tackled. I mean, sometimes we might put in a certain situation, a small job, we'll put a drying fan in and float the carpet. Other times we have to do what's called top-down drying.
Whoa. Float the carpet.
Float the carpet, literally float the carpet.
Well, I didn't know you had, the ability to levitate. Come on, what is
It's like
this?
magic carpet ride you walk over. Whoa.
Come on, what's this? Everyone's going to be going, float the carpet? How's he going to do
So
this?
literally what we're doing is we're floating it on a cushion of air. So we're forcing air in underneath it. So it gets the airflow with the ability to push air through the carpet and release that moisture that's actually trapped in the floor itself.
Wow.
So in certain situations, that is the best way to go. But there's other times where you might have to, because of, say, it's got built-in furniture or something like that, it's right on top of the carpet, you can't do anything with it. Then we have to start looking at possibly putting in dehumidifying equipment instead. Then sometimes you might have that it's in the walls, it's gone right through the walls, we've got to strip out walls, and there's all sorts of things that go on there.
I'm sure people can relate to that. They see the bubbling on the paintwork and they say, I'll just scrape the bubbling off and repaint it, and 6 months later it's back bubbled again.
Yeah, that's normally when you've got a leak through the wall. And normally that's going to be a bathroom or laundry or a wet area situation, whereas a leaking tap or a leaking drain or something like that.
But that happening when the carpet's coming up to the wall is just going to be a continual issue.
That's right. That's right. So if anything like that does happen, it's fix the leaks before you do anything with the carpet, because otherwise it's just a lost cause anyway.
Yeah. Now, I do know you do get asked, so first of all, I asked about the drying equipment. So we've learned the floating. I must come out and actually have a look at you do one of them. Float this
You just want to walk across it.
Yeah, I do. I want to get it on camera. Look at this magic carpet. Look at what we're doing. But what other equipment? Because you've got these drying fans, and are they kind of a combination of a fan and a heater, or what? What's going on?
Sometimes you can get them with heaters as well, but normally it's just we're using plain old fresh air.
Oh, right, okay.
That's why we're fresh air carpet cleaning.
Yeah.
Not quite, but anyway, it is literally just the air movement that you're chasing to be able to try and get through the carpet or through to the underlayment and the subfloor as well, to introduce the air movement. You get air movement, it's going to dry.
Yeah.
Okay, and particularly here in Perth's climate, our relative humidity is not normally that high, so we can get away with that quite easily. In a more humid environment, it becomes a bit more of an issue, but for us here, it's fine. We can quite easily do it that way.
You mentioned dehumidifiers.
Yes.
And is that another aid to actually try and draw the moisture out of the air to it?
With the dehumidifiers, what we're doing is we have to actually close the environment off so that we're just working on that specific area alone. Because if you start getting air coming into from outside, it's not going to be dehumidified anymore, so it's only going to be working on the air around it. But if you make that air within that environment dry enough, it's going to start literally pulling it out of the carpet. So dehumidifier will go then to dehumidify the atmosphere and draw up from the carpet itself. We still keep a bit of air movement going along as well with that. Yeah. We've really got to look at how the room's set up to plan the air movers around us to work as efficiently as possible. So it's not just as easy as like bunging something in there and hoping for the best. There is a science behind it.
I know it's a little bit different what we talk about, it is, but a carpet cleaner out there that's gone, I've often wondered how to do it. You do courses. Do you actually train people in this, Franco, through?
I don't personally train it. We don't do a lot of water damage, but when we do it, we've got to know how to do it properly.
Yes.
Okay, because with us, to really set yourself up properly, you need hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of machinery.
I was going to say the equipment.
It's expensive, and it's got to sit around for a long time, quite often waiting for it to happen. So rather than do that, I've got contacts where I can go and hire the equipment and still get the job done. Yeah. So we don't have to have it sitting around and put all that money into stuff that's going to sit around for 90% of the time. But we've still got the access and the ability to be able to do the job properly.
Now, I can imagine a homeowner or a property manager who's got the tenant rings up, we've had a flood and a bit of a panic, or homeowner comes home and,
The sunken lounge is now a sunken lounge.
Yeah. What is the best steps to take? Is there something they can do before ringing you, or just ring you and then do you give them a guidance of what to do?
Look, it's really a case of get someone in as soon as you can. Extract that water out from the outset is the very, very most important thing. Get as much out and then get your drying equipment in. As I said, that first 24 hours is the critical time. If you can really belt it in that first 24 hours, and then after that you can start taping it off. But normally we're looking to have it dry within 2 to 3 days, absolute max. I mean, 3 days is pretty extraordinary.
I was going to ask you, how long does this drying process take?
Yeah, as I said, we're trying to get it out as much as possible within 24 hours. You want to get it as dry as you can within that period. After that, it's just a little finish off.
Yeah.
So it may need a day or two extra, but that's pretty much it.
So people, I mean, obviously, they will try and obviously correct what's ever causing the flood or the flood damage. Before you get there, is it worthwhile them putting down the towels and trying to soak moisture out?
Look, to be honest, if you've got a fairly large flood intrusion or water intrusion, you can put as many towels down as you like. They're not going to make much of a difference. All you're going to do is have a lot of wet towels.
Right.
Okay. So it's the time is the critical thing.
Time is
get in there as soon as possible. So it's don't leave it for a day or two. Think, oh yeah, it will just dry out, and then you start seeing that there's a bit of a brown ring coming out, which is caused by this stuff here.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, is that the stuff that's actually causing the brown marks?
Generally, it is that stuff that's causing the problem. Not all carpets have that these days. A lot of synthetics, but all your walls still. Pretty much all your walls, at least anyway, they still have that jute backing.
Right.
That stuff there releases a natural dye called linen dye, and that creates a browning on the surface of the carpet, which in some cases can be quite difficult to remove.
Now, when you go into one of these areas and just dry it, is your process to start with drying? Is your process to analyse it first and give a recommendation whether this is going to be salvageable or not? How does fresh air carpet cleaning assess how they're going to tackle these things?
Well, first of all, as I said, we go in and have a look at it, see how much there is, and try to get some history on it.
Right.
So find out how long it's been in there, because the longer it's been in there, the more difficult the job becomes. To the point, like as I said, you get to the point sometimes it's just, well, it's rip it up, replace it, it's too far gone.
Yes.
So it's really a case of assessing each job individually. Our preference is that it happens, person sees it and calls us in straight away, job gets done. That's the best case scenario.
Yep.
But by the time we start leaving it 2 or 3 days, then we start developing smells.
Yeah.
And then we've got to do further processes to try and minimise that as well and get things back under control.
Now, I must ask you, when carpet gets wet like this is a lovely colour here, and it gets wet and it's been flooded, does the dye actually start to come out of the... Does there any...
No.
It doesn't?
On carpeting, no.
Yes.
On your rugs, there's a very distinct possibility that, yes, that can happen if you're oriental rugs, because, I mean, sometimes their dyes aren't particularly colour fast in all cases.
Right.
So you can get some real issues with a natural wool rug or something with a cotton element to it. But normal carpeting, these things are pretty colour fast. To get dyes to run on those, you've had to do something pretty amazing.
Yeah. Talking about the rugs, because people do have expensive rugs and they do get floods on them. Say it's been water damage, you come in, you dry it, and the rug is salvaged, but it's got, the colour fast isn't quite there because that's the quality of the colour fast in those rugs. Can you help, I know you do a lot of stuff, but can you help rectify faded colour or washed out colour in rugs?
Yeah, absolutely. That certainly can be done.
Because some are very expensive.
Well,
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah. And the thing is that it's an expensive process to do. So it has to be a rug with some sort of either A, sentimental value,
yes,
or B,
and I know you did one of
dollar
those.
value. Yeah,
that had been handed down, and the gentleman wanted it to be put back, and he was absolutely amazed. It looked brand new again.
Yeah, well, as close as you as it's going to be able to get. It had a couple of moth-eaten sections in it, which we could have got replaced as well. We've got contacts with someone who's an actual rug tufter who could do the repairs as well. But I mean, in the case of a situation where you've got that water that's created the damage and it's created dye runs, then yes, we've got the facility to be able to bleach out. And by the way, when I say bleach, I don't mean a whole household bleach. Don't go put bleach on your carpets, please.
Franco said just bleach it.
It's a bleaching product that we would use. And in some cases we have to take some colour out. In other cases we have to add colour back in.
Right.
So it really depends on the situation you've got there.
Yeah, because I have looked at your website. Definitely worth visiting the website, because on there you talk about recolouring. That's one of the things I asked about. But you're also able, if a carpet is quite a light colour, you can actually do colour. I know we're probably drifting off wet carpet now, but I thought you do have the ability to recolour carpets as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
So yeah, there's a lot of things we can do with carpet, a lot of little toys that we've got. So
yeah,
we always like to bring them out and play with them.
Just for viewers watching, is there an actual one you've gone to that you thought may not be able to be rescued, but you've actually rescued? Oh
look, there's a one that happened, I think it was beginning of last year, where we had a heavy downpour during summertime.
Oh, right.
Now this house, it was a stunning house. It was actually an award-winning design. It had a rooftop garden. Yeah,
Ooh.
so, and it was absolutely beautiful. They had bespoke carpets in there that were just, they were crazy. They looked absolutely beautiful, but I think I've mentioned this one before, where we had a wool and rayon mixed carpet.
Wool
Yeah.
and rayon don't like water? Is this?
Rayon particularly doesn't like water.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yes.
so the branding that I was talking about that you get from the back of this, rayon's just a reconstituted version of the cellulosic material, so it releases lignite at the drop of a hat. You know, if you sneeze in it, it'll it'll release this lignite. So
Don't sneeze in my house.
Yeah, so this had 3 rooms that had been affected by it, and the browning on it was terrible. We had built-in furniture with this as well. We had what was called a dual bond underlay, which meant that this is a different type of underlay to this, but it's actually glued down underneath to the floor, then glued to the back of the carpet.
Wow.
So it's not something you can just release. So we had to carefully disengage it, pull all the furniture out, disconnect all the power. Then we had to put in dehumidifiers, which was a challenge once again because of the fact that most of it was very open plan. So it was really hard to control the airflow through the property. Get the carpet dried, get the furniture dried as well, which we managed to do, then get all the carpet refitted, put back down again, and then we had to treat the cellulosic browning. Now the owner was convinced it was going to be unsalvageable, and we got this carpet back to a condition where she was happy with it.
Wow.
And when we're talking about $80,000 worth of carpet.
I was going to say, this carpet's not cheap carpet, is this?
No.
This is top-end carpet.
It was a special custom-made carpet.
Custom-made.
Yeah, so it's not something you'll find in anyone else's home. It was their own design.
Who custom makes carpet? I mean,
Oh, well, yeah, some people have the facility too, and good on them. You know, they work for their money,
absolutely.
so they could do what they please with it. But she unfortunately hadn't been told of the potential issues. She was going for the look, and it got exactly what she wanted, but it was a maintenance issue.
I can imagine the feel on that carpet would have been luxurious.
Oh, you may as well have been floating on a cloud.
Yeah, one of those.
Just one of those ones where you want to take your clothes off and just swim through it. It was a beautiful house, I have to say. Everything was really nice about it, but it just had that one problem. The membrane hadn't been put in properly, heavy downpour, and all of a sudden, whoosh, we had a fountain of water, a waterfall of water coming down the walls into the carpet.
Wow.
So that was a planned waterfall feature.
So you managed to save that one. Now, I suppose there's people out there, they love the horror stories. Have you got a good one for us where you've just walked in and gone, oh my goodness?
Oh, look, there's been a few along the way, and normally it's involved...
Because you've been doing this for a long time, haven't you, Franco?
Coming up to 31 years, so if you want to call that a long time,
Yeah.
I guess you can, yeah.
You must have started when you were 6.
26, actually. Close enough. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, always look after you.
Yeah. But no, look, there's been a few along the way. I've had a couple of interesting ones. So a couple of the storms that we've had, the really severe storms that it was just Perth was awash, literally.
Yes.
So some of the stories that people came up with me and told me about through their horror. There was one of the hills where they were hanging on to their houses for dear life, literally gripping onto something because they were getting washed through their house. So they actually come in down the hill, through the back window, broken the windows out because of the volume of water, and then just washed everything out through the front windows and front doors, their furniture, everything, and they were in fear of their lives. And of course, the power had gone out. It was the middle of the night. It was just this thunderous roar of water coming through the house, and they were just literally found something to hang on to and hung on to for the time that it took to all settle down again. Yeah. So that would have been pretty frightening, and I was dealing with the aftermath of that. That one there was literally because once again it was in an area with a lot of orchards as well, so there's a lot of fertiliser in the ground. That was just considered black water. It was sewer. It was literally a case of going in there, suck enough moisture out to be able to handle the carpets, because otherwise they're just so heavy you can't lift the damn things, and then get rid of it and replace it with fresh stuff. So that would have been a pretty horrible one. Another one that I went to, they lived at the bottom of a hill in White Gum Valley, and the sewage plant pump failed. So they had a geyser coming out of their toilet. So yeah, that was another rather interesting one. Once again, that was replacement.
Can you come and clean my carpets, Franco?
Yeah, we just got a bit of stuff on it.
Yeah. Bring your wellies. Bring your gum boots.
So look, there's all sorts of interesting things like that. Other ones have been just, the ones that have been really filthy carpets and have been bad tenants and for whatever. Oh yeah, actually that one that just sprang to mind then, they said their dog had somehow managed to flick the plug into the hand basin and turn the tap on. And flooded their house, and the house was disgraceful. Honestly, it was absolutely woeful. There were little presents from the dog everywhere, sitting on the carpets, on the floors.
Good.
And they expected us to go in and clean that up. But, we got them to shovel it out first.
Yep.
And then we went through the drying process with that one as well. That was an interesting smell in that plot property, I can assure you.
Did you manage to rescue it, or was that just a write-off?
We managed to rescue the carpet itself. We had to replace all the underlay. There's a couple of the what they called furniture that had to be thrown out because it was the old MDF and it's swollen up, and that was history basically. Wow. So that one there was a challenging one because just trying to deal with the tenants themselves, they were not particularly cooperative, shall we say. So it dragged out for probably a week where it should have only been 3 days.
So someone has a flood, either torrential downpour, pipes burst, or the dog flips the plug into the sink and turns the tap on for you.
Yep, those German Shepherds, geez, they're nasty.
Very skillful. So in summary, the best thing people can actually do?
Get on that phone, give us a call. That's the best thing you can do straight away. 0418 914 097. That'll get you through to our office, and you can get things moving. Whether we can handle it ourselves or we can farm it off to someone else we know in the industry as well. But the time is the critical factor there to try to get it happening as fast as possible. If you can't remember the phone number, remember the www.facc.com.au, the initials of Fresh Air Carpet Cleaning. Too easy to remember. Just get onto that and you'll get something happening as fast as possible.